on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz Phoenix, along with Kristen. This is Flix Fix. It's part 3 of the Joker trilogy, and Kristen already hates me. What's going on, Kristen?
Get real sad, guys.
Get real.
I thought I was sad when Roman Reigns and The Undertaker teamed up and had a stupid name that I didn't even remember until Spaz reminded me.
It was the Graveyard Dogs.
But this was actually real sad. They get real sad. Like, I watched it. We're filming 2 shows at a time, and I watched this first so I could just get it over with. My poor boyfriend's like, I have 0 interest in this movie. I'm like, please watch it with me. Please.
Well, we had Travis actually join us for the last podcast that we did, so that was fun. We're going to get him back for Godzilla vs. Kong, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, the formal...
He will not be making an appearance because he has 0 to say about this, other than it's real sad.
Yeah.
But apparently everyone else liked it. I am in the minority, man.
I just, like, when Joker came out, I mean, there was a lot of... You can pick and pull a lot of, like, real-world issues from this. Obviously, the big, heavy lean on the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie is a lot of, like, mental health type stuff. So it's... Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has strong feelings on it. I think people misconstrue the emotion, or in my case anyways, misconstrue, hey, I really loved this movie, with it was a fun movie.
It was, no. It was not
it's not.
That is not what it is.
It's not a fun movie, but I think that, at least for myself, I'm able to...
Hey, do you want to watch a movie that's 2 hours long of life shitting on this guy with no hope of escape? This is the movie for you.
This is... We've drawn a lot of comparisons to what's it called? House of Cards.
Yes.
Where it's just like, what's the theme of the show? Everybody's a bit shit. This is the not-so-comic movie version of that. But I just think, like... Even if I didn't have a fun time, if I walk out of the movie and I'm affected by it, then it's done something. And I know not everybody's the same way. I know a lot of people had a hard time shaking this movie off because of the serious tones and the oppressively depressing tones of it. But
so when I go to work every day, this story has a point.
Okay.
When I go to work every day, I'm like pretty positive at work, super positive. Always the one that's trying to find like the light side of it.
Light side of the force?
Even if we're, like, putting a dog down or something, it's like, well, you lived a good life, and you did everything you could for him, all of that jazz. And I think every once in a while, when it's just a real shitty day, my coworkers get a little annoyed with me. And I have told a coworker before, I'm like, look, I have, like, depression runs in my family. I have anxiety that I have to take medication for. Yeah, my brain already goes into shit mode. So anything for me to not... My brain does that on its own. I don't need anything else to do that for me. So I don't generally watch movies like this.
And I mean, that's totally understandable.
If I wanted to cry a whole bunch, I'd stop taking my medication.
And that's fair. And you know what?
Dark humor from Kristen.
Anybody, well, we're going to have to make a joke out of something here, or this is just going to be a trudge, and that's going to be no fun for us or the people listening. But I mean, like, no, what you're saying is totally valid. Anybody that's watching this that thinks they're going to have, like, a good, positive time, they should probably have a warning, but also, I think when the movie came out, I don't think they made any inclination that the movie was going to be a good time. Like I say, there was a lot of talk when it first came out about what this movie was going to say about mental health. There were people that thought that this was going to vilify people that are suffering with mental health, and I don't think it really does that. I think it highlights a lot of things that contribute to it or can be a piling.
I think even without the mental health aspect, it would be here's a guy who wasn't handed a good hand in life, and we're just going to shit on him for the next 2 hours until he snaps.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is the other side of the coin said, well, this is a movie that's going to make a bunch of excuses for Joker and, like, make him seem like not such a bad guy that did not such bad things. And I don't think it does that either. I think, and I mean, I'd love to hear your take on this because a lot of people don't agree with me. I don't think the villain in this is the Joker. I think the villain in this is the city itself. Like
Yes,
the city is a bit shit.
Sometimes life is just gonna shit all over you, and there's
Yeah.
not much anybody can do about it. Sometimes you're handed a shitty hand, and
Yeah, but this movie really
this is like worst case scenario of shit.
yeah,
Basically.
this movie really wants you to think that
Nobody's life is really gets this bad. I hope.
I really do. Like, there are people in like third world war torn countries that I'm sure are dealing with much worse stuff than this because they're literally living in the threat of violence every day. But I'd
That's
like
true.
to think on I hate to say it like this, but people on our side of the planet where we like to think that we're sort of civilized and kind of peaceful and whatever, this movie makes you want to think that there's no good people out there at all.
And that's part of the reason why I did not like it.
Yeah.
I didn't so much. Again, not a popular opinion, but I did not like this movie. My boyfriend was like, I have nothing positive to say about this movie.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think your opinion's that unpopular. I think there's a lot of people that came out of this being like, why was this movie made? This movie is fucking dangerous.
I don't think it's dangerous. I just, again, if I wanted to be sad all the time, I'd just stop taking my medication. My brain will do it on its own.
Yeah. I was just looking at the wiki before we came on, and apparently there was a lot, especially in the States, there was a lot of additional security put into theaters when this movie came out because they thought it was going to inspire something like what happened at the Dark Knight theater shooting and all that kind of thing. And then apparently, I didn't know this, but you know, it's kind of topical considering what's going on in the world right now. It gained extra unpopularity when it got a positive response after being screened for Donald Trump. That's on the Wikipedia for this movie. I don't know why. I don't know why that's part of the Wikipedia, but that is a thing. That is a thing that happened. But anyways, we will jump into this as we do. I do want to say, even if the movie has like no redeeming qualities whatsoever, the cast is great. The cast basically consists of 5 people. It's Brett Cullen that plays Thomas Wayne, Francis Conroy that plays Joker's mom, Zazie Beetz plays his neighbor that we're going to talk about shortly, Robert De Niro plays this talk show host named Murray Franklin, and Joaquin Phoenix plays the titular Arthur Fleck / Joker character. The only note I really have for cast is that originally this asshole version of Thomas Wayne was supposed to be played by Alec Baldwin. Which I could kind of like, now that I see what they did with the Thomas Wayne character in this movie, I can kind of see it. I don't know whether I would have chosen Alec Baldwin. I don't know whether that's the name that I would have pulled out of the hat. But this guy Brett Cullen, I don't know what else he's in. Apparently he's got a minor role in one of the other Batman movies. But
okay.
Anyways, so we open up in the movie, and all the music in this, as you say, it hits you over the head as much as the themes of the movie. So all the music is just low, slow, trudging, like string type shit, which just makes the movie last even. We talked a lot about Dark Knight and how it's way too long. This is way shorter than Dark Knight and feels way longer. I'm sure you're going to agree.
Yeah, it was excruciating for me to get through. It was really, really hard to watch.
Anyway, so we open on. So it's not quite a montage, but he's in his change room. He works for this place that sends clowns out to people, and the background is just the news. They're talking about what a shitty situation Gotham's in right now. The garbage people are on strike. The rich people hate the poor people. The poor people hate the rich people. Everybody.
Something about super rats.
And super rats, which they talk about that later on the Murray Franklin show, and he thinks it's some big joke that we're gonna solve the super rats with super cats, and I'm just like, the people that are living in those areas aren't gonna laugh at that. He has the wing thing. The first thing that hits you over the head right off the bat is here's this really, really sad guy who has to be happy because his job is a clown, and he's like pulling his face into a smile to the point where he's like crying, and it's it's not nice, but he goes.
And he wants to be a stand-up comedian.
I mean, yeah. We should say a little bit of background. This story does pull a lot from the animated series movies that flash back to him trying to be a comedian and then his wife passing away, and there's interminglings of that and some movie that I haven't seen called King of Comedy and a couple of other movies. But yeah, the whole idea of him being a comedian is, I don't know.
I just remember the one part, the first part. Well, I mean, a lot of it's like excruciating for me, but I remember the first part where I'm like, I'm gonna have a hard time with the rest of this movie. He's like giving his mom a bath.
Yeah, and she's like, "Don't you have to be funny?"
Yes, don't you have to be funny?
Well, this is the thing.
Harsh, Mom.
This is where I think the thing is, like, even if nobody else in the movie does any of the other things that they do, like his own mom doesn't like support him. Like,
Yeah.
if that doesn't set the tone for like the whole world is shit, then I don't know what does. But anyways, we see him at his first job. He's outside of a Radio Shack that's going out of business, and full credit to CinemaSins for pointing this out straight away. If you're going out of business, it means you're lacking money in some degree. You're not.
Why are you hiring?
Why are you hiring a guy to flash a sign? So a little bit of a thing there. But you know, some kids see him, they want to pick on him, they like fuck him up, they take his sign, he chases them down because literally he has to get the sign back. We find out why later.
Yeah.
And he gets the ever-loving shit kicked out of him by these guys in an alley because everybody's shitty.
Yes, because everything is awful.
And it's like, I don't want to say it would be any better, right? But like, if they were robbing him, like if they were taking his wallet, or like if he had a watch on or something, it wouldn't make it better, but like there'd be a reason. But like literally, you're just
they're just doing it to be shit.
They're just fucking with him. Anyway,
they're just being shitheads for the sake of being shitheads.
To set the
which happens. Kids are awful. Kids can be awful.
Yeah. I mean, the absolute reasonlessness of it is what sets the tone for the rest of the movie. It's like basically everybody's shit just because. So they have me beat, and they do the opening stinger, like the opening big graphic is the word Joker in the biggest font they could possibly find that takes up the whole screen. And maybe I'm looking too much into it, but that is the metaphor for the whole movie. They beat you over the head with the logo of the movie because the rest of the movie is going to beat you over the head with all of its themes. Cut to Arthur's in therapy talking about how the world is going to hell. He talks about how his therapy journal has basically become a joke book, and he's writing jokes because he wants to be a comedian. And he flips through the book really quickly, and the quote that it focuses on in the book that does come up again later on is, "I hope my death I hope my death makes more sense than my life." Sense spelled CENTS, like money sense, not sense.
Mm-hmm.
She asks him if he feels better than when he was in hospital, implying that he has been in hospital. There's a quick cut to him.
Yeah, they show a flashback of him banging his face on the door.
And his response is like, "I don't even know, probably." And basically, he's looking to her for anything. He says, like, "Can I get different meds? Can I get more meds?" And her response is, I have a...
Because he's getting his meds from, like, basically Social Security or some shit. Like...
Right. But I have a...
Like, he can't afford his own meds. He's getting it off of, like, government help of some...
Well, I think
it says a social services program.
Yeah, well, I think he's literally got this therapist through social services as well. And I can't tell... I've watched this movie a bunch... because on a dissect the story, dissect the performances level, I do love the movie. I still can't decide whether this therapist is playing it off as like half-assed, not really giving a shit, or somebody that is generally trying to help, but like doesn't expect the system to last the next 24 hours. But she basically responds to it, it's like, "Well, you're already on 7 meds. Should be doing something." And I'm like, that's not an answer. Like, that's not an answer at all. And again, it cuts. It does cut quickly from sort of like, here he's getting dumped on for this, here he's getting dumped on for this. But it does set a scene because like you say, later on we're going to talk about his mom, but like every single person that should be supporting him, that should be offering him the help, that should be seeing that he's in a really, really bad spot is just like, well, it is what it is.
Everything's shit. Get on board.
In the words of Dennis Leary, life sucks, get a helmet. We flip to the scene on the bus. There are a lot of scenes in the movie, and I'm not going to go over all of them, where it's just him going from one place to another. They linger on those huge steps to his house a bunch of times, and apparently, if general media is to be believed, that set of stairs up to his apartment is a real place in New York that's now a tourist trap because people want to dance on the steps.
That sounds about right.
I don't get, people choose weird things to be touristy things, but we flip to him on a bus. There's some rambunctious kid on the seat in front of him, so he's like making funny faces at the kid, joking around. He's happy that he can make the kid smile, so he's smiling too. But the mom just sees him as some weirdo.
Every scene is like something, something, something,
and everybody's shit.
So-and-so is shit.
But every scene is also like there might be a little bit of something to be happy about, and then it gets taken away. Like the rambunctious
and then
kid.
Somebody is shit.
Yeah, like the rambunctious kid just needs something to be entertained by. Here's a guy who spends his life being a clown. He's gonna make some funny faces. He's gonna cheer the kid up. The kid's gonna smile. He's gonna smile because he made the kid smile. And the mom's like, no, you can't have that.
His mom is shit.
And
I'm
then,
just gonna keep saying that because that's what it is for me.
That's what it is. No, you're not wrong. If you just want to keep making that the punchline of every scene, you pretty much can. This is where we do get the first introduction to his uncontrollable laughing condition.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into a laughing fit on the bus while the mother is yelling at him. He has to hand her a card that basically explains.
And she doesn't give it back.
That's right. She doesn't give it back, does she?
She does not give it back. That's that's the only thing Travis noticed the entire time is, hey, she didn't give that card back.
But it is like, and this is where where I pop out of how bad the scene is and into how great Joaquin Phoenix is, because he just looks like he's in pain. And obviously, like, Joaquin Phoenix, looks like he starved himself for this role, because every time you see him, sort of at work, and he's getting changed into his clown outfit or whatever, he's down to skin and bones because he's on the lower financial end of Gotham. He's on the lower end of the rich versus poor thing. He looks like a guy that hasn't eaten in a couple of weeks. So whatever Joaquin Phoenix did to get that way, I'm not advocating for it, obviously, because it's probably not healthy, but he dedicated himself to the role for sure, and this laughing fit, uncontrollable reaction thing that he does really, really well. Anyway, so getting off the bus with the shitty mom and the kid that he was just trying to cheer up, he comes home, he watches news with his mom. The news talks about the super rats. The mom's been writing letters to Thomas Wayne because she worked for the family for so long, and she's really, really excited because Thomas Wayne is going to be the next mayor, and that's
he's running for mayor, and he's going to fix everything. If he saw what they lived in, he would be appalled.
That's absolutely true, and him running for mayor and him being the total opposite vision of Thomas Wayne that we've seen in any other Batman movie is one of the more intriguing things on this. It's everybody, well, this is the guy that was a doctor and gave all this money to Gotham and raised Batman. How can he be a bad guy? And now you see this movie and it's yeah, he's a bit shit.
Just like everyone else.
Then it turns over to the Murray Franklin show. It's hosted by Robert De Niro, obviously. He's doing his late night talk show. Basically, he's David Letterman for whatever time period this is, and we see sort of a imaginative flash of Arthur being in the crowd.
Yeah, he has yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
That's fine. He's in the crowd.
He has like a daydream, basically.
Yeah, well, he sort of sees, obviously he doesn't know who his dad is, which we'll get into later, but he looks up to this, TV figure as, a father figure. He's, pictures himself being in the crowd and being I love you, Murray! And the whole crowd, sorry, the whole show grinds to
Murray, stops everybody and, calls him out, and they have, a conversation.
He talks about how he's...
just basically,
has a positive interaction.
About every celebrity ever.
Yeah, but he pulls him out and he says he gets a chance to say like that he's the man of the house and he's been taking care of his mom since as long as he can remember, and he gets a little bit of affirmation from Murray, which unfortunately underscores the fact that it's just a hallucination. And then you see him back and he's still in the apartment, he's still watching the TV, his mom's asleep, and that basically says, oh, all that little tiny bit of happiness isn't a real thing. See him back at work. His coworkers are sort of asking him about the beatdown last night. His one coworker who like tries to play it off like he's trying to help him out, who's really just a little bit of a piece of shit, gives him a brown bag with a gun and bullets in it, because that's how guns are dispensed. Gives him a gun and says, yeah, like, next time don't let people fuck with you. Like, here, just everybody's got to have one of these. And I didn't notice it until somebody else pointed it out to me, but right as he's handing him the gun, really, really quietly in the background, the song Everybody Plays the Fool is in the background. So at the instant he takes the gun, it's like, that's going to end badly. And the same guy, I don't know any of the employees' names. I didn't write them down. I didn't think to do so. But you basically got the big giant dude and the little midget dude. And big giant dude picks on the little midget dude. And then Arthur gets called into the office because everybody's a little bit shit.
Apparently that first coworker is named Randall, who gives him the gun.
Okay. So Randall picks on the little guy, and we see Arthur getting called into his office by his boss, who's obviously also an idiot. He's getting written up for leaving that radio store early, and he's getting billed for taking the sign, because clearly you would take the sign.
He even says, "Why would I take it? I don't know. Why does anybody do anything?"
Yeah, but his boss is like, "Well, why would they do that? No, nobody would just do that." He's like pretending that like there aren't bad people out there.
There aren't, shit people.
Yeah. He comes back, and I think her name in the movie is Sophie, but basically meets the character who's played by Zazie Beetz in the elevator, talks to her, and they basically have like a 1-minute bonding session over how shitty their apartment building is. And he sort of leaves by saying, he does the fake like gun to the temple
gun
thing,
to your head,
this place sucks type thing, right? And she's got her kid with her, and it's very jarring that the only things I've seen Zazie Beetz in are this and Deadpool 2. Like those, two of these things do not belong together.
That's true. She's Domino in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she is. It's again not necessarily in a negative fashion, but it's showing these people that are on the lower financial end of the totem pole can at least find that in common. Like, if you can bond over the fact that you both live in a shitty building, it's better than like yelling at your neighbor because they're playing their music too loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much. It's an introduction. She's got a kid. The kid really doesn't play a factor at all. And then he goes home, and the mom every time he comes home, the mom is asking him, did you check the mail? Have we gotten any mail from Thomas Wayne yet? She's still talking about Thomas Wayne. And this is where we get to what you said. If he knew how we lived, he'd help us, He's helping her have her bath, where we get to what you said a second ago. It's like, Mom, I don't want you to be bothering Mr. Wayne there. I don't think we need to worry about money. I'm going to get up and I'm going to be a comedian and whatever. And her response is, don't you have to be funny to be a comedian?
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Which is a bit everybody.
Just a bit shit.
Everybody needs to take care of their parents, right? But like, he's literally giving his mom a bath while she tells him, like, yeah, your dream is a bit stupid. He puts her to bed. He's dancing around in his I don't know what you want to call it, common room, living room, whatever.
Yeah.
Watching TV, fucking around with the gun that his coworker gave him, which is, always good. Ends up accidentally shooting it off into the wall, putting a big hole in the drywall, and had to turn up the TV so that his mom would think it was something on the TV. He's clearly listening to like a musical. And the mom says, "What's going on in there? I heard something. Did you hear that?" He's like, I'm watching a war movie." So yeah, random, and it's kind of, again, it goes back to the, what kind of neighborhood is he living in, that him shooting a bullet through the wall didn't even gather anybody else's attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's, but yeah, no, he just turns up the TV and convinces his mom that he's watching a war movie type thing. The next day, he follows the Zazie Beetz character to the bank, and it sort of goes nowhere because it cuts to him at a comedy club, having a laughing fit in the audience, taking notes on what other people are doing because he wants to be funny, but he's basically like, how can I mimic this guy? And that's when he puts the very profound thing in his notebook. It's like, the worst thing about having mental illness is people want you to pretend that you don't have it. The next day, Zazie Beetz comes to his apartment, asks if he was following her the previous day. He's like, I think I saw you following me the previous day. You know, I wish you'd come in. I wish you'd rob the place type thing. He says, well, maybe tomorrow I have a gun, and invites her to one of his shows, which I don't think ever actually happens. But considering what we find out later on, I don't think any of their interactions can be taken fully at face value. Anyway, back to work. Once again, Arthur's doing a clown show at the hospital, and because life sucks, whatever pocket he had his gun in, gun at the kids' hospital, falls out on the floor, and people freak out, and he loses his job. And not only does he lose his job, he gets a call.
And it continues to get shittier and shittier and shittier. It's a downward spiral.
It is a downward spiral because it's not like, as you said, like they double down everywhere they can, because it's not just like he's talking to his boss on the
anywhere it could get shitty, it does.
Well, yeah, because he's talking to his boss on the I keep wanting to say cell phone, but payphone, because how out of date are payphones. And it's not just like, okay, your boss fired you because you took a gun to this children's hospital. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, Randall told me you were bugging him for a gun and you bought it off him and whatever. So for no reason at all, his coworker gave him a gun and sold him out. And here's where we get to sort of like the first breaking point, the first sort of I don't know, step towards being Joker. He's riding on the train. Down at the other end of the train, there's a bunch of rich assholes, like, fucking with some woman, and he's trying to mind his own business. He's trying to be to himself. He's still painted up and everything from the job. He's still, like, in his messed up clothes from getting fired by his boss, and he has a laughing fit while they're, like, trying to harass this woman, and it gets their attention, and they proceed to beat the shit out of him while singing Send in the Clowns. And because I'm a terrible person, this made me think of The Simpsons, because the first time I ever heard the song Send in the Clowns was when Krusty the Clown is like out of work and Bart and Lisa try to help him put together like a comeback special, and it starts with him singing Send in the Clowns. So I can't take that part of the movie seriously at all, which is really unfortunate. I'm not saying that makes me a good person, but they basically beat him down. At some point his gun either comes out or he's got it or it goes off and it hits one of them, and he just sort of like goes with it at that point.
He's just sort of like, and now I'm gonna kill motherfuckers.
He like goes ham on two of them and takes out one of them at the leg. And it's one of those things where it's like, in the situation, you're gonna shoot until they're not coming at you anymore. And especially in movie terms, that could be explained away. It doesn't make it good, but I'm going to keep lashing out until these people don't come at me. What turns that on its head is the last guy. He literally follows down the...
Yeah, he chases him down.
He chases him down the platform and, like, shoots him in the back as he's trying to claw his way up the stairs to the main level. There is a really good shot of him, and cinematography isn't always on the top of the list for this movie, but I will say there is something about, like, the blood spatter on his face, because he's all painted up white because of the clown shit, and because he's bleeding, and because other people have bled on him, and because he's supposed to be a clown, and still in the childish part of our brain, a clown is supposed to be a nice, funny, happy thing. The contrast of it works for me. I know it's obviously not going to work for everybody, but the imagery of it, especially the close-up of him coming up the stairs out of the subway, I thought was really good. And then he sort of finds himself a public bathroom, and he just sort of has this weird, like, out-of-body, like, slow dance in the bathroom moment. If I wanted to get super, super metaphorical, he's, like, morphing into the Joker, something to that effect. And then he sort of marches home and throws away all the bags that he was carrying and goes to Zazie Beetz' apartment and knocks on the door and makes out with her. And that's the end of the scene. Okay, sure. Is
All
is
right, then.
is
Yep.
is the Zazie Beetz character real? We'll talk about that later. Go back to him being at work again, because even him losing his job takes a long time. He's out there, he's cleaning out his locker, his coworkers are questioning him, all like, why the hell would you bring a gun to this place, that place, whatever? And he has another laughing fit on his way out the door. He punches the punch clock off the wall, and the last thing he does is he marks up a sign that's by the front door that says, for all the clowns, don't forget to smile, and he just crosses it out so it says, don't smile. Flip to him at home, watching Thomas Wayne on the TV. They're talking about the killings that happened on the subway the night before, how all three of them were upstanding citizens that worked for Wayne Finance, and he stirs up the media with all this rich versus poor shit. And obviously, the big ironic thing is here's Batman's future dad, talking about what kind of coward would have to hide behind a mask, and talks about all the poor people that he wants to help, but if they think that this is the way to get the help that they're looking for, then they're always going to be clowns. So drop a big metaphor for Batman, drop a big metaphor for Joker in one press conference, and if you hadn't already figured out that Thomas Wayne is an asshole, then Thomas Wayne's an asshole.
There it is.
There it is.
You on a silver plate.
Another case of there you are. Goes back to therapy.
Next page of notes.
Yeah, I mean, the Doomy clipboard of doom is still a thing, and it's apparently super apropos for this movie. Arthur's back in therapy once again, and basically he goes on a bit of a monologue, and there's a couple really good monologues in the movie, but basically this one ends with, for the longest time I didn't know whether I really existed, but now I do exist, and people are starting to notice me. And then he starts making fun of his therapist. Basically, he's like, all I do is come in and you ask me the same questions every day. Have I been taking my meds? Have I been doing my journal? Have I been going to work? Do I have negative thoughts? And he looks at her and he's like, all I have are negative thoughts. Like, literally all I have. And then we get into the whole no more support, there's no more funding, the offices are closing, they don't give a shit about you. And, by the way, you're not going to be getting meds anymore, either.
Great.
So, as you say, your phrasing is absolutely perfect. Like, these are all the little pegs on the downward spiral. Arthur actually goes to the Pogo's comedy club, has a laughing fit while he's trying to get his comedy thing out, and it's just kind of terrible because not only is everybody
doesn't the neighbor actually go to this one, and he does really bad at it? Let me see. Let me look at the. Okay. I thought she went to it. Sophie attends Arthur's stand-up routine, which goes poorly. He laughs uncontrollably and has difficulty delivering his jokes.
Yeah, and it's the only, like we say.
By the way, of the plot on Wikipedia, we're maybe halfway.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That line that I just read is the first sentence of the third paragraph of 6.
Nice. Well, as you say, like, it's just, like, there's not as much for us to talk about as there usually would be, because it's just beat after beat of this guy getting his head kicked in.
His shit kicked in.
But, it's one of those things, like, 99.9% of this movie is everybody being shitty to Arthur, but this thing right here with the stand-up comedy thing, the reason why it sticks out so much to me is, like, he's up there trying to get his comedy stuff out, and he can't do it because his affliction is taken over, and he keeps having these fits and whatever, and it's one of the few moments where even if the people around him weren't shitty, that moment would suck anyways. Yeah. So it's one of the few moments in the whole movie that is still negative, that's still very, like, sympathy drawing, but it's not anything that anybody's done to him. And that's the closest we can come to, like, a good thing is just a bad thing that wasn't done to him intentionally. Which is a comment for the whole movie. We get a little bit of a montage between Arthur and the Zazie Beetz character They're walking around town, they're reading the newspapers, they're noticing that the newspapers are sort of glorifying the clown killer from the subway because, this person is becoming a symbol to the poorer class, striking out against the rich people and all that sort of thing. and she basically says, well, yeah, good for him. Three less pricks in Gotham, only like 1,000 more to go, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say though, it's I don't want to compare this too much to real life because that's going to get even more depressing. But it does say something that all the poor people that are angry at rich people want this guy to be their symbol because he happened to kill 3 guys that happened to be rich. But he wasn't killing them because he hated them for being rich. He was killing
them because they were assholes.
He was killing them because they were kicking the shit out of him 3-on-1. So all this, as we go forward, it sort of becomes the symbol of this like rich versus poor thing, and it never was that. And I just think the way other people can sort of hijack somebody else's story and somebody else's narrative is a whole separate conversation you could bridge off of this movie, but I don't want to.
But I'm not going to.
I could have conversations like this all day, but it would be, even for my standards, it would be way too negative for a podcast. He comes home once again from the date. He says, the mom even asks him, like, where have you been? You know, because he seems to be kind of smiling a little bit. He says, well, I just had a date, and da-da-da. He puts his mom to bed, and then he reads the mom. I don't know what makes him read it, other than, why does my mom keep talking about this guy? Reads the letter to Thomas Wayne, and the letter seems to indicate that his mom had a fling with Thomas Wayne when she worked for him, and that he is actually Thomas Wayne's son. Now, I gotta be honest, the first time I saw this in the theater, I kind of popped for this, because it looked like they were trying to imply that Batman and Joker were brothers.
Related.
And I thought if they went that way, if they went with that narrative thread, that could be such an interesting twist to like a Batman story. Like it would twist everything we know about Batman and Joker, and like you could spin it off into all kinds of cool shit. But instead, we just have a movie that kicks the shit out of him, and there's no Batman in it. Yeah. So, as I said, much like Arthur, even when I thought I was getting something good and something positive, I was told no as well. He loses it, obviously. She hides in her room from him and all that kind of thing, and he tries to convince her that he's not mad anymore so that she'll come out, and they, further dysfunction between a mother and a son that's obviously already sort of dysfunctional. He travels to Wayne Manor. This is one, okay, sounds like an oxymoron because I don't think, a lot of people don't think this movie should have even happened. But this is a scene that they could have left out because it was a little on the nose, because it's a Joker movie, so you have to have Batman in there at some point. He travels to Wayne Manor to see Thomas Wayne. He sees Bruce in the backyard. Obviously, Bruce is like a little kid. Beckons him over to the gate and starts doing like some shitty like stage magic and whatever, and like reaches through the gate and like grabs this kid's face and tries to like pull it into a smile like he was doing to himself. Mm-hmm. Whoever the guy is, I don't even know the guy's name. The guy that's playing Alfred in this version of Gotham steps in, says, "Hey, here's who I am. My mom was Penny Fleck. I'm here to see Mr. Wayne." And says, I know about them. And Alfred's obviously says, "There is no them. Your mother was delusional. Your mother was nuts. Don't embarrass yourself. Just get out of here. Don't lay a hand on the kid. Like, fuck off," type thing. And he reaches through the gate and chokes him. Now, one thing I will say, and I've heard a bunch
Alfred is a badass in canon.
Kind of ish, but also.
Well, in actual Batman canon, yeah, Alfred is a badass.
But this is what I'm saying. This is where I'm about to go. A lot of people, and it seems like a small moment, so I'm surprised that so many people jumped on it. The moment where Joker actually gets his hands on him was apparently a big stickling moment for a lot of people. Because, Alfred has done all these amazing things. He's been all over the world. He's been in different armies. He's been in different services and whatever. So how does he let this random, rascal on the other side of the gate get a hold of him to the point where he's choking him out? And I'm like, I don't really care about that, but I guess that's kind of a point. Maybe he's, maybe he's sort of pulling the, okay, I'll draw this guy's attention so he doesn't attack the kid. But you would think that with a gate between them, this guy that's got all this military self-defense training wouldn't put himself in a position to be choked out by some random at the gate.
Well,
don't really care.
Somebody can get the jump on you.
Oh yeah, everybody in any fight has a puncher's chance, but I will say it's not a point that I would make, but I guess if somebody brought that point to me, I couldn't exactly argue with it. He comes back after trying to find Thomas Wayne, finds his mom being loaded into an ambulance. Quick cut to him at the hospital. He's getting questioned by the cops about the subway killing, and then they eventually reveal that, hey, we actually came to your apartment earlier. All these questions that we're asking you, we actually asked your mom, which is what made her have her. I think they say they think it's a stroke, but like some sort of medical attack. So basically they come to him.
Go ahead.
Okay.
She suffers a stroke, yeah.
Okay. So basically what they do is they tell him, yeah, we questioned your mom until she was so upset she had a stroke, and now we're here to question you, and we think that's going to go just fine. And he basically tells them to fuck off and goes back in. He's like, I need to go see my mom now. Bye. And then, like we need a comedy slapstick moment, he walks into the wrong door. Which is fine, and then we just see him sitting with Zazie Beetz by his mom's bed. We see him flip on the Murray Franklin show, because apparently, other than the news, the Murray Franklin show is the only thing that plays in Gotham.
Yep, just those two things.
Just news about the killer rats and how bad the rich people are, and the Murray Franklin show. So, if he's not already down enough, somebody's gotten in there with video of his stand-up set and how bad the stand-up set was, and he's getting ripped for it by Murray Franklin.
By his idol.
By this guy who he's made a father figure in his own head, and
because
he just
everyone is shit. The movie.
Just everybody is shit. Everything is absolute shit, and he just I keep giving Joaquin Phoenix credit because he keeps this. It's not bombastic. He just has this constant like simmering, like the simmering pot that's eventually gonna boil over type thing.
Over.
And I just whether you choose to make that the focus of what you're looking at when you're watching the movie, I kind of do because I've seen it a couple of times now, and I can't say enough about the Joaquin Phoenix thing, but he just sort of sits there and Gonna pull a wrestling reference out there for those of you that do watch wrestling. You remember like old school Mick Foley when he was Mankind, when he came to the ring, the first thing he would do would be go to the corner and kind of rock a little bit until his opponent got there. He's doing that, but without moving. He's just sort of like sucking in everything that's happening around him, and I just can't say enough good things about Joaquin Phoenix. But we go to the next day. There's more and more news.
I mean, he won an Academy Award for it. He won Best Actor for it.
I hope so. I mean, I think I was aware. I don't pay attention to the awards because
he's actually the second person to win an Academy Award playing the Joker.
Oh yeah, right. Because
Heath Ledger won it too.
Heath Ledger went in posthumously after Dark Knight.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I mean, I don't put much stock in the awards shows because the awards shows.
Well, it's an interesting thing. Whereas, we always talk about that villains make the hero. The villain is usually way more interesting than the hero. I'm not one of those particular people, but you do need a villain to have a hero.
Oh yeah, no,
There's no bad shit going on then. I don't need a hero.
I was gonna make an even more broadly positive comment. One of the reasons I don't agree with most of the people that win awards, and also the award shows typically don't focus on the types of things that I'm watching at the time. Comic book movies don't get a lot of attention, so even if I didn't like Heath Ledger's portrayal, even if I didn't like Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal, which I do, both of them, I would still take it as a win for like, hey, at least they're putting some attention on this thing that I like. It's a much more broad thing to consider a win, but it is what it is. We see more news on what's becoming quickly known as the clown movement. Clown movement, people carrying around signs saying "kill the rich," which is always a nice thing to see. Thomas Wayne on TV, more mocking the mob. Arthur goes down and starts looking around in the mob, not so much joining the mob, but just sort of noticing that they're all either painting their faces or doing the clown makeup, and he's just starting to sort of absorb that, like, what I did caused this. Like, these people aren't mad at me for doing what I did, but what I did is inspiring these people to do whatever they're doing, for better or worse. I'm not saying it as a good or a bad thing, but he's sort of like soaking up like I really did something that night. There's some fighting between the clowns and the cops, which allows him to sneak into the back room of a theater and randomly find himself a theater uniform, because those are just lying around. He walks through the theater amongst a bunch of rich people that are watching some old black and white comedy movies, and then he sees Thomas Wayne go to the bathroom. He confronts Thomas Wayne, tells him who he is, whatever. He says the same thing that Alfred said, you know, your mother was basically a psychopath. She was sent to Arkham Asylum after she adopted you while she was working for me. He won't leave. Thomas Wayne eventually punches him in the face and leaves it off with, if you touch my son again, I'll kill you. Now, the only thing, and this isn't going to be popular, I don't expect you to agree with me, I don't expect anybody listening to agree with me, in this particular moment, I don't think Thomas Wayne is an asshole. Because
no, it's a weird psycho person is like
touching your kid,
and not only that, it's the weird psycho person of another weird psycho person that probably has been harassing you via letter for a while.
Well, that's the thing though, right? Is like, you know who the mom is. Okay, if she was that ill or whatever, not to say it's her fault. Mental illness is not anybody's fault, but she may or may not have caused him some trouble while she was working for him. So, for better or for worse, he was probably happy to be rid of her, happy to, you know, get her off to the hospital or wherever she ended up. But also, this dude has stalked you to the point of talking to you while you're trying to take a leak, has accused you of being his father, and you know from, like, a day ago, this guy, like, was at your home putting his hands on your kid. So as much as the movie tries to play it off like, oh my god, look how much of an asshole Thomas Wayne is, it's like, actually, no. Not in this moment. The rest of the time, when he's out there shit-talking all the poor people and, you know, being all condescending and being a really bad public figure, absolutely. Absolutely, he's being a dick. He's going on media, saying a bunch of dangerous shit. I could compare that to some current-day stuff, but I won't. But in this moment, in this private moment where this person is accosting him in the bathroom while after already accosting his kid, he's not an asshole in this scene. He is probably for the only moment in this movie actually vindicated in his actions in this moment.
I agree.
But other than that, he's a dick. So most of society will say that it's fine.
You can have vindicating moments as a dick.
Yeah.
Just because you're a dick doesn't mean you don't also do good things. You know, it kinda, you know, weighs out.
Yeah. He goes home, and this is one I really don't get, and it only takes a couple of seconds. It doesn't mean anything to the rest of the movie. But right before he gets a call from the Murray Franklin show, because the Murray Franklin clip of him failing at stand-up comedy got some reaction and whatever. So he gets to this...
It's like basically, remember those old, they're old now, those old YouTube clips of like the kid who was, the teenager who was pretending to be Star Wars, like he had a lightsaber, or like, you know, the original like meme people.
Yeah, he went viral except without the internet.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
But basically, you kind of get the idea that, okay, people like laughing at you, not with you. Let's have you on the show so they can laugh at you some more. But right before, and I know there's some symbolism, I know there's some, okay, I just want to escape the world thing, but right before he goes and gets that phone call, he pulls all the shelving and all the food out of his fridge and, like, just sits down in the fridge for a while. He's hanging out in the fridge, and then he gets a phone call to be on the Murray Franklin show, and we never see or hear anything of that again. But yeah, apparently if they hadn't called him, he was just going to, like, hop in the fridge and call it a day. Next day, goes on a little bit of a field trip, goes out to Arkham Asylum. He's going to look for answers and see if what, you know, both Alfred and Thomas Wayne said about his mom was true. He talks to some random clerk that gives him way too much information for a stranger walking in off the street. reads a bit of her file, finds out that she has delusional psychosis and a narcissistic personality type disorder, and then the guy says, well, I can't give you the file, that's about all I can tell you. He's like, if you want to come back and get her to sign off, then I can give it to you, and then it's all good. And then he basically fights the guy through the mail slot and steals it, reads further notes about himself, how he was abused, how she was abused, how he was in fact adopted by her while she lived at the Waynes, and her boyfriend beat him all to shit as well, and he was finally taken away for a brief period of time when he was found tied to a ventilator in a dirty apartment, starving and with massive head injuries, which may or may not contribute to the condition that he's in now. So literally, as we said before, like, the number one person that was supposed to take care of him, who is his mom, or for anybody else out there, their parent figure, was one of the people that put him, like, directly in danger. So what's he got? Like, he's got nothing at this point. Everybody's shit.
And everybody's shit, and it keeps getting shittier.
And, okay, so he has his mom, and he has what he thinks is, like, this girlfriend character, right? So he just found out that his mom can't be counted on for shit. Comes home, goes to Zazie Beetz' apartment, hangs out, like, on her couch watching TV. She freaks out that there's a stranger in her apartment, and then
he has made the whole fucking thing up.
And I will say that they pulled this right from Fight Club. He has, like, a mini flashback to all the moments that he had with her, but then, like, she's edited out. Like, them standing in front of the newspapers looking at the clown stuff is actually him by himself. Her standing at his front door talking to him about the bank stuff was him just at the door talking to himself. Very, very Fight Club-ish flashback. I'm an idiot. So when I was watching that, I thought it was going to be one of those things where it's like, she is the only good thing that happened to him, and then something would happen to her, and that would make him snap, was what I was thinking the first time I watched this. And it's like, okay, she was the one good thing that was happening to him, but the one bad thing that happened to her was he finds out that she never existed in his life. Mm-hmm. So, really, really bad. Like, really, really, like, deadpan, like, there's nothing left, walking around in an empty shell. Bad. Goes to the hospital, has a really long monologue to his mother about, like, how his entire life has been shit. He talks about his unhappiness. He talks about the fact that everybody's lied to him. Talks to her about, she allowed him to be in such positions that allowed him to be in the condition that he has right now. And then he caps it off with, all this time I thought my life was a tragedy. Figured out it's a comedy. And then proceeds to smother his mother. Not a high point in the movie.
Nope.
Not at all. Like, not a little bit. He goes back home. He starts playing dress up. He's got old episodes of The Murray Show queued up. He's got a curtain hanging over his bedroom door there, and he practices his entrance. He practices how he's going to talk to Murray on the show. He's sitting on his own couch in that very talk show way, like with one leg one way, with his arms up on the back of the sofa, like that fake casual type thing. Mm-hmm. And then he sort of pantomimes shooting himself like that's what he's going to do on the show. And more he's turning into what we know as the Joker. He's dyeing his hair green, he's painting up the face, etc. He's catching a couple more news clips about the clown movement, and then his coworkers come by.
His ex-coworkers.
His ex-coworkers, the Randall and the little guy.
The guy that gave him the gun and another guy.
Yeah, the other little guy. I'm not going to say the M word because, it's not nice, but the little person guy that was actually nice to him. They come in under totally false pretenses to begin with. They say, hey, we heard your mom died. We just wanted to come in and check in on you. He's got sort of an offhand comment about, yeah, I'm feeling a lot better because I'm off my meds now. Quickly you find out that the real reason that they're there is because the cops were poking around about the subway killings, and they just wanted to get their story straight with him because, we want to know what you told the cops and this and that and the next thing. And Arthur kills the fuck out of Randall.
The guy that gave him the gun.
The guy that gave him the gun. Like, he's got the scissors in his back pocket from when he was doing his hair, I guess. Or it's kind of implied that he was doing stuff with his hair and he happened to have the scissors or whatever. And he, like, fucks him in the throat with the scissors and then just, like, bashes his head to, like, oblivion. And the little guy's just standing there, like, all terrified and all, like, why the fuck am I here? He's just asking him why. Like, even though he knows the guy was a shithead and he knows everything that's happened and he knows how he set him up and, like, he knows why, but, like, the why is more
Still why.
Still why. Like, he knows why, but it's more like, why are human beings capable of this why? Like, the existential why. And then he sits down calm as hell. And once again, it's the whole, like, he's painted himself up all white, so all the blood is, like, twice as impactful. He reminds me, he goes into another monologue about how he's going to be on TV tonight and whatnot. But he kind of reminds me of The Crow just a little bit, like Brandon Lee's The Crow, in the way that he's all painted up, he's all pale, he doesn't quite look human, but he's still got this really creepy, calm way of talking because the violence is done. He tells him he's going to be on the Murray Show tonight. He tells him, like, he can go ahead and leave. Like, I'm not going to do anything to you. You can go ahead and leave. Just don't look at the mess, but you can leave. And it's an absolutely morbid moment when the little guy gets to the door and he can't reach the lock to get out. And he just turns around like, okay, I guess I'm going to die too. And he gets up, he unlocks the door, and he says, hey man, you were the only one that was ever nice to me. And he just, like, kisses him on the head and sends him on his way. Like, there's a little tiny bit of him left that recognizes, like, the one person that was nice to him, and even that guy's gonna fuck off now because he's gonna be scared of him. So again, the little tiny little bit of nice that you had is gone because you scared it off because you just, like, myrtleated his friend all over the floor. Anyways, continues to get ready. We see him sort of enter his final form. He gets the bright purple.
His final form. Sorry.
It's
continue.
It's what it is. But he sort of slips down the elevator, and you see the full mask, the full face mask, the full hair, the whole, like, purple and green. Don't ask me where he got that suit.
He just did. They did it because,
Because reasons.
Yeah.
He has, I don't know what you call it, and obviously I don't know the name of the song, but it's the song that plays at a lot of, like, hockey games and whatever, while he's going down the steps and dancing down the steps, and he's, like, really, really overly happy because we all know what he just did, and we all know that his life is crap. We all know that he's not actually happy, so the more happy he gets, the more creepy it is. But the police somehow randomly spot him at the top of these innocuous, somewhere in the middle of Gotham steps. Chase ensues. The chase goes through the subway. The subway is obviously full of the clown protesters.
So he's able to slip away through the clown protesters.
I love the image of he's already got himself painted up as a clown, but he still pulls a clown mask over top. You could do comments about, like, symbolism. It's like, hey, I created all these people that are wearing all these masks, so even though I already look like a clown, I'm going to wear a clown mask, be part of that crowd. Basically, the cops eventually get a shot off on one of the clowns, which causes the rest of the clowns to absolutely maul them. Arthur escapes. No big deal. He's
no big deal.
No big deal. He's off. He's got TV stuff. He can't be bothered with cops. I killed a guy. I basically gave him a free tracheotomy in my kitchen. But I got TV stuff to do now. Arthur is in the back, and he's still watching. There's news TVs everywhere. There's a TV playing the news at his backstage, like, dressing area, where he's had to retouch up his makeup and all that sort of thing because he got all, like, fucked up in the chase. They're still watching the news. They're still watching the mounting riots outside with the clown people, the kill all the rich people and all that kind of thing. Arthur finally gets to meet Murray, which is cool. He's sort of starstruck a little bit, but even that is subdued. He questions the new look. He wants to make sure it's not any statement that's going to have anything to do with the riots outside, which I guess a show host would do. Then he goes through, like, a really random sort of pre-show talk, like, hey, whatever you're going to do when you get out there, we run a clean show here. There's no cursing. There's no off-color material. If you have anything else, talk to my assistant, that type of thing. And he just sort of offhand, he's like, when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker? Because when you played that video clip of me fucking up at my stand-up, then you called me a Joker. So I think I'm going to go. Basically, it's like I think I'm going to go with that. And then they leave, and he sits down in the chair in his change room, and once again, pantomimes shooting himself in the head. It can only go up from here, though, right?
Nope. Everyone and everything is shit.
Everything is
the movie.
It should be called like Joker semicolon everybody's shit.
It's like that movie. You remember that movie that Will Smith was in like a while back where he was like, and he had a son, and everything was kind of shitty, and at one point they have to like spend the night in a bathroom,
Yep.
and he like,
Yep.
It's like that, except it never gets happy.
Which is funny because that movie's called The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes. It'd be that movie if everything continued to be shit.
But also, Will Smith wasn't handing out like free tracheotomies in his kitchen.
Well, no, but
he was selling
everything is shit.
He was selling vacuums and shit. That was called The Pursuit of Happiness. This was called No, Don't Even Think About It. You Have No Chance at Happiness.
Yes.
So the show starts. I will say Robert De Niro as the like over the top hosty guy is good in the role. They play the clip again just in case anybody was not sure that everything is shit. They introduce him. He makes a big bombastic entrance just like he was practicing in his living room. There's some other random doctor guest on the couch next to him, and he randomly like makes out with her before taking his seat. Again, they question him on the look. Again, they want to make sure that his look isn't to sort of spur on the big clown protest that's going on outside. And then he says, well, you're a funny guy. You want to make people laugh. You want to put smiles on people's faces. Why don't you tell us some jokes? He pulls out his book of jokes, and Murray sort of makes fun of him for having a book of jokes. You flip through, you find that quote from the beginning of the movie, which is the whole, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. And then he says, and he tells this knock-knock joke, and it's like, knock-knock, who's there? And he says, it's the police, ma'am. Your son was killed by a drunk driver. And then he randomly has a little bit of a laughing fit to himself. Everybody tells him, like, oh, that's not funny, you can't do that, da-da-da-da-da. And he does go on this pretty intelligible spiel for a bit about, like, you know what, like, who are you to tell me what's funny? Because people like you are the ones that decide what's right and wrong. I guess you're going to tell me what's funny, too. And then he talks about basically what we've been saying the whole time about how everybody's shit, nobody gives a shit about anybody else, everybody would walk over me, da-da-da-da-da, and eventually rambles himself into admitting that he killed the people on the subway, and the whole show switches at that point, and Murray actually turns into a serious interviewer, starts questioning him, starts sort of condemning him a little bit, and he says, all right, well, fine, this and that, and tells Murray he's terrible because he brought him on just to be laughed at, and he says, okay, here's your joke, here's your final joke, here's your punchline. What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abuses him and treats him like crap? You get what you fucking deserve. And right out of nowhere, he just blows Murray's head off on the show. And I don't know about anybody else watching, anybody listening to me right now. The movie, in my mind, the movie freezes at that point. Because that's the big Joker coming out moment, because it literally goes to sort of like the test pattern, like where the show cuts off, and then we just see a random montage of TVs that are showing a little bit of what happened on the Murray show, a little bit of the rioting happening outside, a little bit of people talking about the shooting and whatever, and then it just sort of cuts outside. So that scene where he sort of blows his head off sort of like freezes in time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not to undo the effectiveness of, the host just got shot on live TV. The whole crescendo of his monologue leading up to it is fantastic. I'm not doing it any justice. That's why I only wrote down the last line. But the whole thing is great. The whole way it's like he's basically looking at Murray and the crowd being like, why are you surprised that I turned out this way? You made me this way. Which is brilliant. And then the shooting is just, it's a shock value thing for the movie. But when we pull out of that, when we pull out of the montage of TVs that are showing, like, shit's bad all over, we see him actually leaving in a cop car, and he's basically driving through the chaos that he's created. He's driving through the riots. He's driving through all these people that are wearing masks, more or less, so that they can look like him. One of them even steals an ambulance, knocks the police car off the road, pulls him out, saves him, lays him out on the hood of the car. We go to the alleyway. Even though it's a Joker movie, it has
infamous alleyway.
The infamous
it
alleyway.
It was really a Batman origin the whole time.
And obviously one of the guys thing. And this is where, okay, if we forget about the rest of the movie and the fact that you and I are doing a Joker trilogy and we're focusing on the 3 Jokers in the 3 movies that we've talked about, Batman 89 infers that Jack Napier, Joker himself, killed Bruce Wayne's parents.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Knight implies what most of the comics imply, that it was actually Joe Chill, just some random criminal that, needed to do it for the money at the time, whatever. This movie implies that it was a random criminal, but a random criminal that was inspired by the Joker to go out and be violent. Do you agree with me that that is a happy medium between those 2 stories?
Yes.
I think it's absolutely great, because to put this movie aside for a second, I didn't know this until way later in life, that so many people disliked the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman because it changed who killed Batman's parents. They just wanted to make it one encapsulated story, so they just changed it so that Joker did it, he got his revenge later on when he fell off, so that it would be one encapsulated story. So many people were apparently really upset by that because it's supposed to be like a random criminal. That's the whole point of him going out and fighting all crime, and they acknowledge that in the Dark Knight movie. But I think having a random criminal, yes, but inspired by the Joker, also yes. I think that's as close as you're going to get to a happy medium of those 2 stories, and I think that part is kind of cool. I
agree with that.
A lot of people looked at this and be like, okay, well, you could have...
Although I don't know why the Waynes would go out when all of this rioting is going on.
Well, you could, if you were somebody that hates rich people, which I'm not, but a lot of people do, you could just say that's the ignorance of rich people, like they assume they're going to be fine. Or they assume that they've got enough protection, or they assume that they've got, whatever the case may be. Because they do leave out the back of the building. The whole reason they're in the alleyway is because I guess they're avoiding the front crowd.
Oh, that makes sense.
But no, I think it's way more realistic. If you don't really know how bad life is in like you say, like the dregs, the poorer parts of town and whatever, you can't imagine that thing that you saw on TV could actually happen to you. Like I could see them playing that off as arrogance. And I don't even necessarily think that, I mean, obviously they've made Thomas Wayne a dickhead in this movie, but I don't even think that that's a dickhead thing. I think that if you can't come up in a relatively comfortable lifestyle and environment, you could be forgiven for not thinking that that would happen to you. I don't think that part of it stretches reason too much. But I just... and anyways, going back to this movie, I think people that were upset, like, okay, it was supposed to be a Joker movie, why did we have to stick the Batman alleyway scene in there? It's like, because a Joker story is a Batman story.
Yes.
Like, you can't divorce the 2, I'm sorry.
They are one and the same. They're destined to do this forever.
They were almost brothers in this story. And then we get the sort of the last scene out in the streets is him finally coming to after being knocked out in the car. He raises up, he slowly gets himself back to his feet, standing on top of the cop car with the crowd behind him. Obviously his face is all busted up, his mouth is bleeding, he takes his fingers, because some of the makeup has come off, some of the Joker face has come off, he takes the blood in his mouth and he just draws the iconic Joker smile on his face with his 2 fingers and turns around to basically, gesture to the crowd, and they basically, like has been led up to the whole movie, he's basically their idol. And that sort of sets the scene for, like, this is why the downside of Gotham adopted and supported and worked for and became under the rule of the Joker, because he got their loyalty with that big move. You shot the guy on TV, you must be, on our side, we're going to get behind this guy because he's whatever. I don't know whether they think he's crazy, whether they think he's a genius, whether they think he's a leader, whether they think he's anything, really.
Or whether they're just mad.
Or whether they're just mad, but, like, I think when you have an angry population, I'm not a sociology person, but this is really, really layman's terms on my part. To have a population that's that angry, you still need something to filter that anger through. You don't want to just say, I got up one day and beat somebody up because I was angry. You want to say, I was out there and I was part of something and we were fixing something and we were behind this guy and he inspired us. Like, there has to be you can sit with a bunch of anger, but you need to like either direct it towards something or in support of something or reacting to something. And whatever one of those particular things that these people need, Joker became that for them. And I don't even think he realizes what he's done in that sense. And I think just to end that scene on that spot of him slowly turning to what is now his crowd is awesome. And then you get the one little tacked on scene in Arkham where where he's talking to a new therapist and he's just sort of having a laugh to himself.
And her name is Harley Quinzillion, or whatever her last name is.
Quinzel?
Quinzel, whatever. I don't remember Harley Quinn's last name. Something with a Q.
Harley Q?
Harley Q.
Basically, as he's voicing it over, as she's talking to him, his answer sort of voices over. They go back to the alley. They see Bruce crying about his parents. He's laughing. The therapist says, you know, what's so funny? He's like, oh, I was just thinking of a joke. And she's like, well, why don't you share the joke with me? And he's like, you wouldn't get it. And you could have 1,002 interpretations of what you wouldn't get. It means like you wouldn't get what it's like to be me. You wouldn't get what I think is funny. You wouldn't get the things that I know. Like there's 100 things you could get out of that. You wouldn't get it. Flash to the outside hallway of that, you know, interview room or whatever, and it's just him walking away, except he's leaving bloody footprints. So there's his next escape from Arkham. Joker's off to do more shit in Gotham, and that is the end of the movie.
In other words, shit happens, and it continues to roll downhill until everything's shitty. The movie.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I'm looking at the casting. Phoenix lost 52 pounds for this movie.
God damn. Because he's not any, like, I don't want to get super, like...
52 pounds is a lot.
It is.
If you're already kind of, like, fit.
I mean, he's kind of fit, but he's not a big dude to begin with. Like,
exactly.
he gets...
52 pounds, the smaller you are, the more...
52 pounds
means.
small
amount of weight is.
Yeah, like, he's pretty skeletal in this movie, or at least he looks pretty skeletal. I want to believe that at least some of it is special effects. Because if it's all, like, what he did to himself... I almost feel bad at that point. Like, I know there's a movie that Christian Bale was in. I haven't seen it. But I know there's a movie that Christian Bale was in that he got himself, like, even worse looking. But I think he survived on, like, an orange and water every day. And just got himself down to, like, nothing. And I'm like... On the one, it's a weird conversation to have, because on the one hand, I'm like, oh my god, how dedicated were they to that role? But on the other hand, you want to be like, okay, I don't want you to do that much for a role. It's an odd conversation. I'm not going to tell another actor
Some people want to put in, I don't want to say put in the extra effort, because it makes it sound like
you should have done it.
That's a thing to aspire to be, but some people are just that into their craft.
Yeah. And it's, you get the people that talk about, well, they wanted to give themselves to the role, and I get that, and I commend, like I say,
as long as he's doing it and they're not telling him to do it.
Yeah, it's not.
It's still not great, but you can't stop people from doing something that they want to do.
Yeah, it's not quite the same as some like asshole director being like, yeah, we'll give you the role if you get a boob job.
Yeah.
Like you want to think that it's a little bit more like, hey, this is what I did. The only other thing, and we're gonna hop off this pretty quickly because now I'm down to.
Now he's sad too.
Now Spaz is hashtag real sad too. The only other thing that really becomes a debate at the end of this movie is how much of it is real. How much of this movie do you think is real?
How much of it is, because we're following his perspective the whole time, basically. Right. How much of it is unreliable narrator?
Yeah. Like, did his mom really tell him that he was Thomas Wayne's kid, or did he just make that up from watching Thomas Wayne on TV like he did with the Murray thing? Obviously, the Zazie Beetz thing is revealed to be his imagination. Obviously, his initial interaction with Murray Franklin is led out to be an exaggeration. There are people that say that the entire movie is imagined. And right at the very beginning of the movie, when the doctor says, hey, is this helping you any more than when you were in the hospital? He never left the hospital. and the entire thing's an illusion, and the person that he's talking to is just his next therapist talking to him the next day after he banged his head on the wall. Apparently, if you go through the entire movie, all the clocks say 11:11. I've never bothered to check, so the time never changes, so it must not be real. I don't know. It's a fun conversation to have, but if it ultimately ends up being that everything leading up to that last scene with the therapist was all an illusion, then the whole movie didn't need to happen, and fuck this guy.
It was a dream the whole time.
That's really sad. The other thing, and I'm going to throw this one back to CinemaSins again, and yes, I know there's the guy in my comment section that hates when I mention CinemaSins.
Every time you mention it, dude, I don't know who you are. Every time you mention it, dude, we're just going to do it again.
Yep.
So just
Yep.
let it go, man.
I was told
whole couple minutes that you used to type that comment about CinemaSins, you could do other stuff.
You could plant a garden.
Maybe not that much, but you know what I mean.
Or you could water your garden. There you go.
Those minutes add up. Just let it go, man. This is what it is.
And the thing is, like, I don't go to I love the content that CinemaSins puts out. Don't get me wrong, but I don't go to them for factual information. I go to them for different like talking points that I wouldn't have thought of. Right? There's a third frame of mind because we talked about like the origin story and how, like, you know, did Joe Chill kill Batman's parents, or was it actually Joker that killed Batman's parents and whatever. They brought up another story that even this Arthur Fleck Joker isn't the real Joker, that the real Joker is one of those people in the crowd, and we're going to find out who he was later on. So if we go through the entire Joker movie and the guy that we're following isn't Joker, then I'm going to say fuck this movie in its entirety. Because then that's just like random.
Lots of people like to speculate. It's fun to think up like, oh, what if they did this? What if they did this? And like that happened a lot for the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people got disappointed based on, you know, because nothing was going to live up to the fantastic stories people, you know, make up on your own.
Well, that was your reason for not wanting to watch Star Wars almost, wasn't it?
Well, that was my reason for not wanting... Well, I watched all the Star Wars ones. It was my reason for not reading any articles or any speculation.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I watched the first trailer for each of the new Star Wars movie, and that was it. And
right.
I did that for a lot of Marvel movies, too, because, you know, I didn't want to get this idea in my head of what I thought it was going to be, and then, you know, be upset about it. I wanted to watch for what it was and decide whether I liked that version of it, and then later you can always be like, well, it would have been better if they had done this, or if it was about this.
Yeah. The common misconception is just because you come out of a movie thinking, oh, I wish they had done this, or I wish they would have done that, doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But no, what I'm saying is, like, I have no problem with a twist. Like I say, like halfway through the movie when they dropped the idea that Thomas Wayne was the Joker's dad, I'm like, as a twist, that works. That opens up all kinds of like literary avenues for storytelling and whatnot. But there's a difference between a twist and, guess what, the last 2 hours of your life don't matter. Because that's, if you get to the end of that movie and there's somehow a reveal that this Joker wasn't even the Joker, that sort of feels like, you just wasted 2 hours of your life. Like, there's a difference between that and a good twist. But anyways, we are done the Joker trilogy on...
Get real sad, people.
Get real sad. Get real sad.
I'm not going to lie to everybody or to Spaz. I put off watching this movie for as long as we could.
Yeah.
Because after Spaz was like, well, if you didn't like the grittier parts of The Dark Knight, you're not going to like Joker. And, you know, just for future reference, I don't want to do things that I know I'm not going to like.
There you go.
But I did it anyways, and now I'm real sad about it.
To be fair, I said we could scrap it.
He did offer to scrap it, but I wasn't going to waste that 2 hours of me being sad only to scrap it.
Yeah, not going to be like last week where it was like, hey, Spaz, let me tell you how my day was today. Okay, don't watch Joker today. Don't do it.
It was a bad day. The day we were supposed to do it, I literally texted Spaz. I was like, So we put down 2 dogs today. I had to carry 2 dead dogs to the freezer today. I don't want to do this. I don't want to watch this movie.
I think I literally responded to be like, yeah, no, we're not doing this today.
I'm
or
like,
something to that effect.
I will literally shoot myself. I will literally shoot myself if I have to. I'll be so messed up.
Yeah, it's real, real bad. So, if you are somebody who's a little more human, like Kristen, and not so much like me, because I'm basically an android, not a recommend if you're planning on having a good day. If you're somebody like me who can sort of put that to one side and really get into the nitty-gritty of, like, what did they do well, and you want to dissect a movie that way, I think there are parts of this movie that are fantastic for those types of conversations. But it is a really mixed bag. But at this point, if you're still listening, you've basically heard us tell you the whole movie, so you're good.
Exactly.
We're gonna have a little bit more fun really, really soon. I mean, we're finishing this, and then we're getting right on into talking about WandaVision. But
that one will be a little shorter. There's only 2 episodes.
Yeah, there's an hour of total content for us to talk about versus this 2-hour movie.
See, that's where I can get excited.
Yeah. You can get excited because you only have to put up with me for a little bit more. It's fine.
Well, no, because it wasn't Everything is Shit the movie.
That's also true. It's 50s sitcoms. It's good. Also, I don't know whether we announced this in the last pod or not. The next trilogy that we are going to look at is the... still can't remember the fucking name of the trilogy, but it's the Unbreakable Split Glass trilogy. Don't know when that's going to be, because right now we're going to sort of lean into the WandaVision stuff. We might do a double bill like tonight.
Also, and I'm saying this on the podcast so that Spaz can't wriggle out of it, because he made me watch this and get real sad, we are definitely going to watch Deathbed, the Bed That Eats People, which is a really, really shitty movie.
Have you watched it already?
Not shitty no. I just
okay.
I want to watch it. It's the only reason I know about it is because Patton Oswalt does a bit where he talks about, like, oh, I keep trying to, like, I'll be making these, like, scripts for different movies and stuff, and I'll think, oh, this is just garbage. This is total horseshit garbage that I just wrote. This is awful. And he'll go back and he'll say, somebody took a script of Deathbed, the Bed That Eats People, took it to a producer, and the producer was like,
yes,
you've hit oil. Yes, we're totally doing this. And then people woke up and made
Deathbed, the Bed That Eats People,
made catering so that people would have the energy to act in Deathbed, the Bed That Eats People.
See, I have a much better example for that, and not better because the movie's any better, actually better because I'm sure the movie's quite worse. My example of, well, you can't say anything is really horrible because this movie exists, is a movie that I've only watched about 20 minutes of.
Aliens 3. I mean, no. Sorry.
Hey, Alien 3 is basically Shawshank Redemption. It's fine. Basically. Funny thing about that is I will make fun of myself and you will continue to make fun of me, but the point that I was making in that moment was valid.
I don't even remember the point you were making in that movie, because as soon as you said that line...
The point that I was making in that was the whole, like, oh my god, they shut down the prison on Fury 161, but nobody left, and it's like, well, yeah, because it was basically home. That's why Red didn't want to leave Shawshank, because it was the only home that he knew. It was a valid argument. It was just a very obscure one.
I do not even remember the point you were trying to make at that point.
No, the movie...
All I heard was, it's just like Shawshank Redemption, and I was like, what?
I think I even prefaced it with, people are going to hate this comparison, but...
Probably. Again, totally blacked out.
And I lost the recording, so it's fine. But no, getting back to my final point before we wrap this up, my number one example for you can't say anything else is bad because this exists, is really fucked up. And if you know my taste in movies, I like a good fucked up movie. I love the Saw series. We're never going to review it, obviously, but I love the Saw series. I think the Saw series is absolutely brilliant. Hostel tried to rip it off, so not so much. Even I cannot abide the existence of Human Centipede.
Ugh. I haven't even watched that movie. I just read the Wikipedia article for it, and it made me gag. Ugh. Ugh, no. If you're ever like, we should watch, no.
Well, okay, if I'm not going to convince you to watch Saw, I'm definitely not going to convince you to watch Human Centipede, because
No,
I don't want to watch it
absolutely
either. I'll tell you something though. I'll tell you what's fucked up, and then we're gonna finish this, because this is just getting into a conversation of what's bad. You know how when you watch Netflix, if you don't do anything after the credits of a movie, it'll just sort of like, it'll pop up 2 or 3 suggestions, and if you still don't do anything, it'll eventually just start playing one. I was legit watching Marvel shit. Right? I think it was back around the time that you and I did that one long pod that's us talking about like 19 Marvel movies.
Still insane, but continue.
That was a lot of fun. I still go back and listen to that. You guys should listen to it too. It's on the podcast. I fell asleep. I woke up like 6 hours later in the middle of Human Centipede 3.
Oh my god, there's more than one?
Yep. Human Centipede 3 has a centipede of like 100 people.
You must have had fucked up dreams.
Well, this is the thing, like, I take a long time to wake up, so I hear things before I'm actually awake, and all I heard was people arguing. And it's a guy in a prison, and I woke up and I saw like 2 minutes, like, you know when you're literally looking at something, but you have to like get your bearings?
Mm-hmm.
I watched it for that 1 or 2 minutes to get my bearings long enough to realize that this prison guard had sold all of his prisoners to this scientist that was doing the Human Centipede thing, and registered them all to be in this like 100-person centipede thing, except one of the papers got messed up, and in the middle of the Human Centipede, there's one person in there that's not a prisoner. It's his secretary. And I was like, no, I'm out. I'm good. I'm just going to go to sleep and wake up again, and this didn't happen. So
I feel sick to my stomach just thinking about the concept of that movie.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's not even just like bad, it's also like gross.
It's not that the movie exists, it's that somebody that had the initial thought.
Yes.
Like like you can make a movie out of anything. Any movie can exist. The scary thing is that somebody thought of it. Apparently Human Centipede 2 is about somebody that saw the movie Human Centipede 1 and wanted to make it quote-unquote real.
All right, let's talk about something fun now.
Anyways, so we are going to go on eventually to... We're going to do The Bed That Eats at some point.
We're not going to talk about Human Centipede.
No, we're
never going to.
No, we're not, because I'm not going to watch them. Fuck that shit. We are going to do The Bed That Eats at some point.
Deathbed, the bed that eats people.
But the next trilogy that we're going to do, barring anything brand new coming out that we can actually talk about, is going to be the Unbreakable Split Glass trilogy. Right now we're going to focus on WandaVision. And
okay.
if you guys like what we're doing with WandaVision, I'm sort of halfway throwing it out there. We might do it for Falcon and Winter Soldier as well.
Yeah. I'd be up for that too.
Anyways, stupid question. Do you have anything else to say about Joker? It's real sad.
Get real sad.
Get real sad.
real sad.
All right, tell people where to find you.
You can find me, hopefully not crying in the corner tomorrow. Also Twitter and Instagram.
That was really dark. A, because people are going to come and find you in the corner, and B, because that wasn't a Twitter handle. Go show a lot of love to Kristen on Twitter, at BlackCatFeline.
Kristen's going to be taking her happy medicine tonight.
Oh, dear. If you ever doubted that Kristen gives herself entirely to the stuff that she does with me on this channel, I do genuinely thank you. Like, all kidding aside, I do thank you for, like, tolerating this movie and coming up here to talk about it with me. We're going to move on to some happier stuff. So yeah, BlackCatFeline on Instagram and Twitter. Go give Kristen a big hug, because she needs it. And you guys know where to...
I get to go play with puppies tomorrow. It's fine.
That's true.
I'm going to, when I go to when I take them out of their kennel, I'm just going to let them crawl on me and be like, yeah, puppies.
And you know where to find me, or he wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. She's been Kristen. This has been Flix Fix. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you right now. I fucked it up again. I'm Spaz. She's Kristen. We're out. Bye, guys.